South Africa, here in Africa, has a $65 billion aggregate investment, which is about 18.56% of its GDP. But in the last 10 years, Nigeria has not risen beyond 16%. What is the problem and how can it be tackled?
I think the common denominator of the countries you mentioned, both China and South Africa, is strong infrastructure. Our country, over the past 16 years, has suffered a major infrastructure deficit. So we don't have rail, we don't have roads, power. You know, when we came into office in 2015, power was at 4,000 megahertz. That is 16 years, in 16 years. So you need strong infrastructure. And nobody can make excuses about that. You've got to have strong infrastructure, which is one of the major focuses of our administration's policy, in putting in place the right infrastructure. The second thing is that you cannot have a thriving economy if you allow the type of grand corruption that has taken place in Nigeria in the past 16 years. I've heard one of the candidates say that fighting corruption is not an economic policy. With all due respect, if you don't have resources, if you don't have money, if the resources have been stolen, then you cannot possibly even generate jobs. You can't even build infrastructure. In the past 3 years, the government of President Muhammadu Buhari has spent 2.7 trillion on capital in Nigeria. That is the highest ever in the history of Nigeria, despite earning 60% less than the previous government. We have currently spent 2.7 trillion in 2 budget cycles, and we're earning 60% less. When oil was at $100 to $114 a barrel, no infrastructure was built. Today, oil is at sub-60. When we came into office, it was at $28, going on to $30. Yet, we spent more on capital and on infrastructure. The second thing is that you must have poverty if you don't have a social investment scheme. I've heard some mention already about countries like India, like Mexico, like Brazil. These are countries that had a social investment policy. And that's the sort of thing we have also.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Right. Candidate of the Alliance for New Nigeria. Now, Nigeria's misery index is currently put at 51.26%, which is a combination of the sum of its unemployment and underemployment. Even when you use the old data and the current level of inflation. Now, what are you going to do to address this perennial and growing problem of misery and hopefully restore hope to the Nigerian common man?
Because of the policies we have with ANN, Alliance for New Nigeria, poverty has become like endemic in every aspect. Despite what is with due respect, His Excellency Vice President Osibajo have said, for all the efforts that the government has put in, we are doing a complete overhaul. Most problems that we have is the fact that our over 774 local governments are not fully developed. What we are trying to do is we're going to do the devolution of power. We're going to do resource control. We're going to do revenue resource control and constitutional amendment, because those are the things that are structures that affects the endemic poverty that we have in Nigeria. Number one, in devolution of power, in the resource control policy that we have, we're looking at, like I mentioned earlier, that we're going to look at each resource that each local government has. Each local government will be given 20%. The 20% of the resource, the monies generated from each local government will be given to the people. 20% will be given to the local government. 20% will be given to the state government, and the 40% will be given. That way, more employment are generated, more monies are going around, more people. In China, most families, if you go to each family at the local government level, you'll find out that every person is producing something. The more vibrant the economy is, the better we are able to eradicate poverty. Another aspect, that we're going to tackle is education, education is going to help to tackle most of the endemic poverty that we have in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Allied Congress Party of Nigeria, ACP, and candidates. The value of the Naira has depreciated over time. In fact, at some stage, it dropped so sharply to $520 20 Naira to a dollar before recovering. And now we have multiple exchange rates in the country, ranging from 305 Naira to 364 Naira per dollar. What policies or initiatives do you intend to pursue to bring the forex market into equilibrium and reduce this misalignment?
Thank you. We are in a global village. The world is now a global village. And the level of production going on in the country determines the strength or otherwise of the currency of the country. If much are not going on in the economy of that state, please forget it. Because as it is, Nigeria does not have the capacity to determine the rate at which the Naira is exchanged for other currencies of the world. To ensure a higher value for the Naira, we need to look inward. An economy that depends solely for everything to come into the country, for everything to be imported, it's not a serious economy. And until something is done to reverse the trend, what we do is just to look inward, to ensure that whatever we can produce locally, we don't import it. Whatever we can produce locally, we don't import it. Then we look at the economy to re-engineer it, to make sure that the economy works. For instance, in the petroleum sector, what we do currently is to import all our PMS needs. This will be reversed. We will make sure that even if we at the moment does not have the capacity to refine and sell out, our government will do something to make sure that we add value to the product that you are selling out. That will create jobs. And in the regulation, what we do is to create the enabling environment and support the private sector to be able to drive the economy. As it is, the value of the Naira is low because foreign direct investments are not coming. And until something is done to make sure, to give confidence to the international system.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll be going on a very short break. And when we return, we'll be talking more about the economy. But please let it be noted that if you have a rebuttal, which you are entitled to any of the points raised by any of the candidates, please indicate and you'll be given the opportunity 1 minute to do so. But that's when we return from this break.